We are getting into episode 4, titled The Tomb of Moon Knight. This was a fascinating episode. Now, Sean, I believe episode 3, you messaged our little group immediately and said, I don't know how I feel about this episode. And then right after this episode, I think you told me your favorite episode so far.
That is not what I said about this show.
Okay, that's what happened.
Show. But that doesn't mean it's not true. I did really enjoy this episode. I just think we didn't talk about it yet because I knew we'd be reviewing it so we could share our thoughts on the show. But
warning,
thoughts?
If you guys look down there, spoiler review. Not everything we talk about tonight is going to be spoilers, but we do spoil Moon Knight every week. This is your place to come and talk about the show. We give you like 3 days, I think, Wednesday, Thursday, and all day Friday to watch it, catch up, and then share your thoughts with us here.
Indeed. Overall thoughts, I did enjoy the show. I enjoyed this episode a lot. I think more than the previous two. I think this might be like my second one behind the premiere.
Okay.
Even though it was, spoiler alert, very Moon Knight-less. There was no Moon Knight in this episode.
I was going to say that.
And I think it was because it got back. I didn't catch the director. I was trying to remember if it was Mohammed Diab. What was that noise?
Mohammed has done at least 2 of the episodes, I think.
But what did he do this one? I think because I know he did the second. He did the first. I don't remember. I should pay more attention to this. This one, I think, got back to kind of the horror thriller mystery roots that the first one really like jumped off on, and that's what the first half of this episode was, at least, especially when they get down into the tomb, and they're in the doctor, the dead doctor thing, reincarnated, whatever it is.
Huge ups to Marvel and Disney and stuff. Having a like zombified, I don't know exactly what it was, but it looks like the person that would basically take out the intestines and stuff and stick them into jars, got a hand ripped off and is trying to stab Layla with a protruding bone. I was like, yeah, this is metal. I'm into this. Let's go.
Brutal.
As you're saying.
I was just saying, like, I just enjoyed that, got back to it. Because I'm not, like I said, we've talked about this, I'm not a huge horror person, but I do enjoy the subtle horror, and especially something like this, where it is, the whole family can watch this type of show. And so it's not too scary, but I like where they went with that. And then, of course, the twist happens halfway through, which the initial twist was like, holy shit, he just got shot.
Yeah.
our hero, he just got shot. Where's Moon Knight going to save him? He's locked up in in the
Marvel's first 4-episode show.
Yeah, right. What are the little thingies called? This little statue. They have a name. Can't remember that specific name. But
I don't know what you're talking about.
They mention it multiple times. I just can't remember the specific name. But and then we jump into the hospital and we're like, what the hell is going on? And I think you could tell right away, like, this is too clean. Like, this is not.
Well, it's too clean, and there's also like some fantastic elements. But I love that the transition goes from Mark Spector basically fading into obscurity, and then instead of showing where he goes, we start watching like this old timey looking like VHS tape, and that was fascinating. And we see potentially the origin of Stephen Grant, or possibly just another aspect of Mark and Stephen's mind.
Of his mind.
Right. Yeah. There was a lot I really enjoyed about this episode. Now, for me also, it's not my favorite, but it might be my second favorite, like you. However, I think episode 2 is actually my favorite. Mr. Knight did a lot for me. Really enjoyed that. But number 1's also really good. So this is either second or third. It's hard to say, but it's definitely not on the bottom. I love the feeling of the Mummy, kind of, and I love those movies, or at least 2 of them. And I love getting more into Egypt. And this episode, almost more than any other episode thus far, has raised so many questions about what is real, what is fabricated, what's in Mark's mind, where is he right now, because he like fell into the water, but then it looked like he was like sinking down into some abyss, and we don't know what's going on. And in this asylum, we see everything like shift sideways, which
Mhm.
I was watching a review and somebody said that kind of reminds them of Inception. When like
Sure.
things are going on externally, the dream
Right.
starts shifting,
Yeah.
and that's how that felt. And we got to it was a really precious moment that Mark lets Steven out of the sarcophagus, and then they embrace, and then
Mhm.
we see that third sarcophagus. Like they are really holding this over our head. Like we all
Yeah.
think that that's Jake from the limited research that we've done. It could be something else. Maybe
Yeah.
Mark has a dark side that is like his inner demon. Maybe it's something to do with Khonshu. Maybe it's Jake Lockley. But who is Jake Lockley in the MCU? Because Stephen Grant is a new character essentially because he's not
Mhm.
Stephen Grant from the comics, who was
Right.
much more of a Bruce Wayne-esque persona. Um, but yeah, oh, and Lego bringing up that I love this is going towards, I believe, Jeff Lemire's run, which I hope they continue with the last two episodes,
Yeah, we
right?
have 2 left.
Two episodes left, yeah,
2 left,
five
yeah.
and
Mhm.
six. But she corrected
Yeah.
right there. Yeah,
Yeah.
really looking forward to it.
Yeah. I wish we had our expert on the panel tonight. Sadly, she's sleeping. So if everyone wants to tweet at Allison Salamoni, ask her thoughts on the episode. I'm sure she'd be more than happy to share those with you guys.
Oh,
But we're just left to our own devices tonight.
you were bringing up the aspect of horror, and you like it in small elements.
Mhm.
Well, something really horrific that I wanted to point out is that we haven't gotten to Streamlabs in 14 days, and I think that's pretty. Like, I'm not gonna sleep tonight. Yeah, I know. It's just like
If I had an imaginary wallet, I would dump it out. It's empty. There's nothing in there.
you know what's
Did
weird is
you?
like,
Was there any?
yeah, go ahead.
Was there any specifics about the episode? Because I've most of the gripes I've had have been with some of the not the story structure per se, like I guess the
Pacing
direction,
or okay.
like the pacing, but also like the common sense to a character's or a person's movements and what you would do in a situation. And then
Right, and that
it
could boil
seems
down to
like,
script.
yeah, and it seems like, oh, hey, this is what they'll do next. And then you put it on screen, you're like, a person wouldn't do that in real life. Like, just they wouldn't go this way instead of that way. And it's, I don't know how to like better describe it than that. It just seems
Mhm.
like character actions are not in line with reality, which is weird to say in a fantasy show type thing. But
Yeah.
is there anything like that that pops up for you where it's like just a nitpick, like you're like, oh, I wish they would have done this instead of that?
Not so much in this episode. I thought this episode was
Mhm.
paced pretty well. I think for the first 5 to 10 episodes, I wasn't sure if I was going to be super into this episode because I didn't know really where I was going. But
Sure.
once we get into actually the relationship between Layla and Steven, which evolves
Mhm.
into eventually a kiss and having
Yeah.
Mark basically punch himself, cracking me up. There's a lot of good humor moments in here. Uh, a huge standout actually was the official reveal and confirmation that Mark was at the very least present for the death of Layla's father.
Yes.
And I feel like
Mhm.
this isn't the last we're going to hear about that. I think we're going to delve into that more. But we find out something that is very consistent with the comics, and that is that Mark says that his partner murdered Layla's dad and then shot
Mhm.
Mark. And now in the
Yep.
comics,
Left him
that's
there to die.
Bush,
Mhm.
something
Something
Bushy.
Bushman. Yeah.
Yeah. And they said they weren't going to use that character because he was too similar to Eric Killmonger. But they
Oh,
still
okay.
canonically have referenced
Sure.
the existence of his partner filling that same void that the character
Mhm.
did in the comics. So I thought that was interesting.
Well, they don't.
Lego, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead. Yeah, yeah.
I was good.
Uh,
Yeah, I didn't like that they had Layla dead stop knowing people with guns were after them to ask about her father's death. Like her literal life isn't as important as the truth. Kind of dumb. Bringing up
I
what
think
Sean
that's
just
always.
said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's always like a movie trope that happens or a TV show trope. It's like nothing is as important as this conversation we need to have right now, even though we're literally about to
At
die.
least Mark was aware. He's like, now?
Mhm.
No, we can't
Yeah,
now. We gotta, yeah.
right. Yeah, one of them was a voice reason in that situation. I think that they're gonna just stuff I've seen in other, videos and breakdown videos and this and that is I think they're going to possibly like combine what you just said. They're not going to use the Bushman character. They could combine like Bushman with maybe like Midnight. I think it's called Midnight Man, who's
Yeah.
kind of like an analog to Moon Knight,
Mhm.
and which is the French guy's character that we didn't see die. We saw him
Right.
get,
He got hit with one of the crescent
he got hit with
darts
the
and then like went
crescents. Yeah.
into the
Right.
fog.
So it could be him, and it could be a way to keep that character going forward, even though we know, sadly, the actor himself has passed away
Right.
after the filming of the show was ended. So I think we'll see him in the next two episodes, the actor himself, and then turning into maybe a bigger bad type of thing that could jump into a movie down the road since the show I don't know what to read, or what to believe on like headlines like, oh, they've already canceled Moon Knight season two, stuff like we have no idea what's going to happen, but they could be bigger
Well,
characters in other shows, team up shows, or
yeah.
movies in the future going
Without
forward that
going like
involve Moon Knight.
super far into that, they're Disney and Marvel would actually get in trouble for this. There can't be a Moon Knight season 2 because they submitted it for limited series and there's very strict rules on that. That does not mean we will not see Moon Knight again. Just
Sure.
like it doesn't mean that we won't see Hawkeye or Kate Bishop again. It's just saying that this character's future will not continue in a season 2 like Loki did. But
Hmm.
don't stress because WandaVision was also a limited series and we got
Hmm.
Wanda coming in 2 weeks. That's
Right.
just like some of these shows I think are going to take place over a longer period of time. And some of them are really just either introducing us to a character or branching a gap that they don't have
Yeah.
time to do in the movies. Uh, like She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, Moon Knight, we're getting introduced to these characters, and it's kind of like a testing ground. You don't have to do a $250 million investment into putting it out in theaters and then it falling on its face. You can test the
Mm.
waters on Disney Plus, and then boom, introduction.
Yeah, and they
But
could bring him in as a villain in like a Midnight Suns team up show or another version of the Defenders or whatever other group. There's so many groups in Marvel that I'm way over my head that I don't know about. Um, the other thing I was going to say was uh, she specifically was mentioning her father's name, and they made a point to say that over and over again. And I guess, and like I said, once again, from another review I've watched, but there's a character called the Scarlet Scarab or the Ruby Scarab or something like
okay.
that, and who
Does it
is
make
another version of this type of character where they get their powers from, an Egyptian object type of thing.
mm,
And so instead of it being a he and that person or that hero was her father, maybe it's her who, and she is very capable. We've seen this so much time. She has the character herself of Layla has so much like agency and like physical like prowess, and she could take care of herself. She could definitely be a hero in her own right. So I wonder if they'll go that way and, gender bend the role a bit so that way the general audience doesn't see it coming, and we might see it as like a tag at the end of the season or sometime in the next two episodes.
And they also, like on that note, hammered home that her father always referred to her as like his little scarab.
Hmm.
And so
Yep.
I think that's a really good point. Interesting. I hadn't heard that yet, but I think that makes a lot of sense, and I would like to see that.
Hmm.
I really hope that we get like the resurrection or release of Khonshu in the next episode.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, because once we get to the finale, that's not something I want to spend a lot of time doing. Like
sure.
the show is called Moon Knight, and I am very comfortable with how they've handled Moon Knight thus far. Um,
Others are not.
debatably, yeah, I know. Debatably, uh, Marvel doesn't always stick the landing in their season finale. I think WandaVision did, but that's like I said, it's all debatable. Uh, it would be really good if they could leave a really good taste in everyone's mouth at the end of the season, stick the landing, and get us really excited to see Moon Knight and be clamoring to see more Oscar Isaac in the MCU.
Yeah,
That's my hopes and dreams.
I think he only signed a one
Yeah.
series deal, which
However,
is
TV
rare.
contracts and movie contracts are different.
Hmm.
So him signing a one season contract does not mean that like he can't then sign a movie deal.
Sure.
But
I
like
just
if
mean, I think
yeah,
it'd be rare for MCU to not lock an actor down for multiple projects because they can
he
always
seems to
let
love the
them
character.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he'll be
interesting.
back, but it's now he can negotiate for more money, and
Hmm.
they also don't always know if they're going to use a character or not. We'll see what happens. I'm looking forward to more. I'm very excited about this introduction to a character. Moon Knight is quickly climbing the ranks of some of my favorite characters.
What do we think about all of the statues in the very opening scene?
It's
There was way
fascinating.
more than just the four, Khonshu and the other three that
Yeah,
were missing from the circle powwow they had.
some
There's
strange
10 of
things are afoot at the Circle
them.
K, Ted.
Hmm.
Yeah, uh, it's fascinating. There's something up with the Iliad, which retroactively makes me feel a little more comfortable with that scene of them like judging Arthur Harrow and Mark Spector. I'm like, oh, maybe
Yeah.
you guys suck. Like it's all uh,
Mhm.
what's the word I'm looking for? It's all crooked. It's all
It's all
askew,
corrupt. Yeah.
corrupt. Yeah. So
Yeah. So
interesting.
they weren't willfully, and or they weren't just unwillfully inept. They were doing everything willfully in that scene just to basically throw Khonshu under the bus.
Right. And Arthur Harrow and them might all be in tune with each other. So
Yeah.
everyone in the chat, I'm really curious to know what your ranking of episodes is. Out of these four, I want to wait. What's your favorite? What's your least favorite? What are you
Mhm.
thinking of the show? And yeah, what Andy says, Oscar is an EP on the series, so he clearly is invested in the character. Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Also, there's just great representation throughout, and the songs are always a bop. The songs and the
Yeah.
score, they're doing a
Hmm.
really great job with that. And I'm going to talk more about some score with a movie review at the towards the end of the episode here. But are you ready to move on to the next thing?
So speaking of music, though, I was scrolling through
Yes.
TikTok as you do, and it's people always for some reason I don't know why these videos get the most views on TikTok, but it's someone filming a show on their
Yeah.
obviously on their lap of their
Yeah.
laptop sitting or an iPad, and they have tens of thousands of views and likes on these videos. I just don't understand it. But it was them filming the opening of I think it was last week's episode
Mhm.
when the Egyptian music just pops on like that type of whatever that song was. And I guess apparently it's a famous song in, uh, uh African culture, Egyptian culture, etc. And so I was looking through the comments, and like there was just some like I guess just uneducated. Like, I hope they got her permission to use the song. It's like I'm pretty sure Marvel got permission from an artist to use their music. I just thought it was really weird how people you don't realize we live in this bubble where we all talk about this crap all the time.
Yeah.
Everyone watching, everyone who's going to watch this, whether we get 50 or a million views on this video, we're all in this bubble of we know this stuff, and but there is so many people outside. Like, I don't think my wife has watched a single episode of a single Marvel series that have come out. She just doesn't care about them. She barely watches the movie. She didn't had no interest in seeing Eternals, even though I was like, hey, let's go see it, let's rewatch it, it's out now. She still hasn't seen Shang-Chi or Black Widow that's come out, even though I will be watching them on TV. She like watches peripherally, but there are so many people who don't just like jump in and glom onto this. So
Right.
there's a large audience where if they hit it off with the right thing, they could skyrocket out, or still just basically room for growth. I think that's the point I'm trying to make.
Well,
Interesting.
I second your point. What Sean said, but maybe a little smarter.
Yeah. Yeah. What I said
That's
was
what I
smarter.
did. All right.
Hit it,
So
Jesse.
right, moving on to the next thing. Again, if you guys are just seeing the clipped out version of this, you can catch the whole show Friday nights typically at 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, where we're talking about currently Moon Knight, Halo, and whatever movies we saw that week, and then followed up by a bunch of whatever the heck we want. So